So on the heel of hearing, I've labeled this today's talk on the heel of hearing. Last week it was all about hearing, Shema. It was all about hearing. So what follows on the heel of hearing? After hearing. And going to unpack that a little bit. But because it follows on the heel of hearing, let's just reflect briefly on last week and what we've discussed last week, since it follows on the hearing part. So we've gone through the Shema, the various different facets of it, almost like analyzing it word by word in some places. And it's a call to abandon idolatry. He's the master of the universe, the king of all kings, Yahweh, through his prophet Moses, speaking to us, talking to us, pleading with us, saying to us, and to the people who he was addressed at that point in time. Honor me for who I am as Yahweh, the creator of the universe, and abandon idols. So if we read it, and it was this command, the laws and the right rulings which Yahweh, your Elohim, has commanded to teach you to do in the land which you are passing over to possess, so that you fear Yahweh. Fear is to stand in absolute awe and admiration and in worship before him. So as you are being taught, you will be in greater awe and awe and awe of him. If you haven't learned anything about Yahweh, he will just be another God. It will just be another God in the entire pantheon of gods. And then you can have many gods. Then you can fall into idolatry. But if you've been taught about him, and if you start to understand, and you see the insights, and you start to marvel at him, you start to marvel at his Torah, you will be in absolute awe. It's like, wow, you are Yahweh, the creator of the universe. And because you're in absolute awe of this great Almighty El, the only one that exists, you will guard his laws and his commandments. Not because it's a stick, but because you're in total awe of his greatness. And you'll have, and you will grow in insight and understanding as to the beauty thereof. We shall command you and your son and your grandsons, which include us, all the days of your lives, which includes us, and the days be prolonged. And you shall hear, you shall respondingly hear with insight, and you shall guard. Because hear, O Israel, Yahweh, your Elohim, Yahweh is one, which was just saying. And you shall love Yahweh, your Elohim. So when we think about standing in awe before the great El, haven't been taught about the great El, the logic next step is you will love him. You will love him with all your heart and all your being and with all your heart. And because you love him with everything that you've got, there will be this deep desire not to have any idols. Because you will be able to see it clearly, like what is an idol? Is useless. They cannot help me. It's not going to stand the test of time. And Yahweh. And these words shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them on your children. You will cut them into their flesh, effectively, what is standing there, so that it is really part of who they are. We are part of the children, by the way, at the moment. And I believe, and as we're going to go through today's reading also, we will realize what this impress on their heart means. It's being cut into us. Because as you start to grow in faith and as you start to grow in understanding and love, it goes from level to level to level. It's being cut into and cut into and cut into. It becomes deeper and deeper. And you shall speak of them when you sit in your house. Hey, you cannot stop. Because of love. And when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and all the rest. It will saturate every facet of your lives. And as it saturates every facet of your lives, you will start to see idols, and you'll start to identify them, and you'll start to rebuke them. You'll say, I want to have nothing with that, because it's only you. No foreign gods I will serve. But then we have to hear the voice of our Master. We have to hear the voice of our Master. And isn't it interesting that it's in Genesis 3 where we found those remarkable words. Both Shema, to hear, call the voice of Yodhe-Vavhe. And there's this big contrast. Hearing the voice of the Master, hearing the voice of the Master, and then suddenly, because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and as I said last week, it's got nothing to do with gender, it's all to do, there was another voice that spoke into the situation. You listened to another voice, not the voice of the Master. They fell into idolatry. Sion, which was reasoning, and Og, which is comforts. And those are still the kings and the giants of today that we are fighting. And this reading builds on this. It's going to plea how to get rid of these two giants, also from our society. But then the massive grace that He is the one that clothed us, and He is still doing that today. And because He is clothing us, we can sing and we can glorify His wonderful name. Up until today, up until the end of days, because He clothes us. What He has started to do in Genesis 3, He's not going to stop. He's still going on with that. And we've concluded with Psalm 29, and it's such an incredible psalm. I would like to read it again to us. Ascribe to Yodhe-Vavhe, O you sons of the mighty. Ascribe to Yodhe-Vavhe esteem and strength. Ascribe to Yodhe-Vavhe the esteem of His name. Bow yourselves to Yodhe-Vavhe in the splendor of set apartness. Is that not our prayer? Just an absolute worship. Because as we have been taught about Yodhe-Vavhe, we can just marvel at what He has done, the redemption plan, how He has put everything together, and how He's holding everything together. The voice of Yodhe-Vavhe is over the waters. The owl of His steam thunders. Yodhe-Vavhe is over many waters. And He cannot be stopped. And therefore, let there be no idols in our lives. The voice of Yodhe-Vavhe is with power. The voice of Yodhe-Vavhe is with greatness. The voice of Yodhe-Vavhe is breaking the cedars. Yodhe-Vavhe is breaking the cedars of Lebanon in pieces. Nothing can stand before Him. What glory. And to think, we humans, normal beings, we can actually speak of Him, we can speak to Him, we can be in a relationship with Him. It's just sometimes too big for our understanding. The voice of Yodhe-Vavhe cuts through the flames of fire. The voice of Yodhe-Vavhe shakes the wilderness. Yodhe-Vavhe shakes the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of Yodhe-Vavhe makes the deer give birth and strips the forest bare. And in His temple, everyone says, glory, 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 and honor to the mighty name of Yodhe-Vavhe. Yodhe-Vavhe sat enthroned at the flat, and He sits as sovereign forever. He gives strength to His people. He blesses His people with peace. And that's what He is doing still today. That's what He is doing right now with us and with many millions of people right over the world. He has not changed. He cannot change. He is Yodhe-Vavhe. He gives strength to His people. And He blesses people with peace. And so, in every situation where you and I might be, this psalm has not changed, Psalm 29. And He blesses us with His peace, and He strengthens us. And not just on a Shabbat, every day. Yeah, but my situation is moeilijk. Yeah, exactly, that's why you need this. It's very moeilijk. Exactly, that's why you definitely need Him. So it depends on how big the challenge is. Well, your L is bigger. Just think about it. If the L is not bigger than the problem, get another L. It's as simple as that. If your Elohim is not bigger than your problem, get another God. Because then your God is not working. But because He's Yodai Vavai, because we bring glory and honor to Him, let His light shine. And right after this incredible reading last week, we go into this week's reading, which is called Ekev. So, going to look a little bit at the word Ekev, so the weight of a name. It's translated in English as because. And so I looked at a couple of dictionaries about the word because. And it's very frustrating because when you ask the dictionary about an explanation of the word because, it says, well, because means because. I looked at about 10, and that was the explanation I got. Because it's because. Eventually I found one that says for the reason, and another one that says as a consequence of, as gevolg van. Okay, well that's not really helpful, but it's better than just explaining because with because. Well, that's a bit difficult. But this word Ekev is an incredible word because it only occurs 15 times in the entire Old Testament. Only 15 times that there's a because. And because it can only be 15 times, that's why it's there because. Out of only 15 times in the Tanakh, and it got the name of a Torah reading. One of the 54. And normally when going through preparation, doing a little bit of analysis of the words and so on, when I saw this sort of statistic, it sort of grabbed me. I said, but this is not normal. That a word that is so, in a sense, insignificant, only 15 times, got elevated to a name in the Torah portion. And so perhaps there's a reason why it is so sparingly used. Perhaps it's sparingly used because it's a very heavy word. So let's go and have a look. Where does it occur in Scripture, these 15 times? I'm not going to go through all 15, only 5. So it's a third of them. The first one. And in your seed the nations of the earth shall be blessed because you have Shama, my voice. I was like, what? Because Shama call. This is covenantal stuff. This is weighty stuff. This is not just another because. It brings us directly back to last week's reading, because last week's reading it was all about hear the voice, hear the voice, hear the voice. Now, this week's reading, Ekev, because hear the voice. Because there's a covenant. Things changed. I ask, okay, perhaps this is coincidinky, perhaps this is coincidence. Perhaps this is not normal. Let's look at the second one. And I shall increase your seed in the stars of the heavens, and I shall give you these lands and your seed, and in your seed the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because Abraham, Shammah, Kol, and God. That's the second use. Same. Ekev, Shammah, Kol. Because you've heard the voice. Well, let's look at the number 3. But my servant Caleb, because he has a different spirit, because he heard my voice, he had a different spirit. This is serious because Ekev is being elevated to this Torah reading name, is drawing our attention to the fact that when we listen to the covenant of our Father, global order changes. Ekev, Shammah, Kol, and there was a change in the course of history at global level. That's why it's used sparingly. When you hear the voice of God, things change. You talk about covenantal stuff. Abraham, Caleb, obviously, as well. So let's look at this word ekef a bit. It's an ayin, a kuf, and a bet. Ayin is an eye for understanding, to see things, have insight. The kuf is at the back of the head, or the final, or the last. And then a bet is a house. So putting these together, the understanding of the house at the end. Isn't there, I'm sure everybody here would like, I would like to know that. To have insight at the end. To have understanding at the end. But you can also say, to have understanding of the house at the heel of time. It means the same thing. At the end of time. This becomes exciting and interesting when you add a yod and you get the name Yaakov. Yaakov, with his hand holding on Esau's heel, so his name was called Yaakov. And you just add the hand, the yod, to a cave. And you've got the hand on a heel, which is where Yaakov got his name from. That is translated and very often seen as, explained as, he seized or he seizes or a heel catcher or a heel holder. And there's in a sense a very negative sentiment to this. But if you look at it in a bigger context, then you realize that because Jacob wrestled with God, he became Israel. Because Jacob listened to Yodai-Vavai, he went to Egypt. Because of many things, because he stood up against Lavan, he became the nation. Because of the covenant, it is the covenant God of Israel, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. There are so many becauses in his life. And because of Israel, because of Jacob, because of the obedience, because of the 12 tribes that came from him, we are here today, because of Jacob. And so he became the heel man, the because man. And we're going to read a bit about it later. But in the book of Jeremiah, because of Yodai-Vavai, because of Israel, we can be here. And therefore, there's no limit to receiving the grace and the glory of our Master. It puts a bit of a different spin on the name Yaakov. Because him becoming the because man. And if you think about it, Israel and we being grafted in, what does that make us? The because people. We become the because people because we have heard the voice of Yodai-Vavai. And we have been grafted in because of Messiah Yeshua. We become the because people. And the representatives of Yodai-Vavai because of what he did. As gevolg van. So, yesterday, Jerusalem Post, which is a secular newspaper, has a little article which I'm going to read, 2 paragraphs. And a rabbi was writing in the J-Post about this week's reading. I'm just going to read what the rabbi has published yesterday in the Jerusalem Post. The first of these covenants appears in Parashat Ekef, and it is introduced the word that gives us the parasha its name. In the context of a covenant, Ekef means as a consequence of. The blessings promised by the Torah are represented as a consequence of faithful observance. Being taught, love, observe, and this relationship between it. And the blessings that's following. That meaning, however, grows out of the word's literal sense. Literally, ekev refers to the heel of the foot. Just as our footsteps leave a trail behind us, this word ekev become to denote what follows an action, its consequence. So as we walk, we leave a path. And that path that we leave behind is the consequence. It's the ekev. It is the because we've walked there. So how did we walk? What did we say? What did we do? What are the consequences of those actions? Those are the footsteps that lies behind us. They become the testimonies of the becauses. I've walked this path and I've done this, and because of that, there are consequences. So it's bringing us back to that our actions will have consequences. As the action of our Messiah has had consequences. Him hanging on the cross, it has consequences. Because of the covenant, it has got consequences. Our actions, they have consequences. And then it continues, it says, building upon the image of the heel, our sages uncovered a deeper meaning in the word and in the covenant. They explain that ekev refers to those mitzvot, the commandments, that people trample under their heels because they regard them as insignificant or simply overlook them. Oh, crikey. So with your heels, you can either follow the Torah in obedience because of love, and there will be very positive consequences. But with that same foot and with that same heel, you can actually trample on the commandments. Moses reminds us that no mitzvot, no command is too small to matter. The Torah asks us to pay as much attention to the ordinary commandments as to the larger ideals. There is a natural tendency to think that what is lofty is important and what is detailed is secondary. The Torah insists that great ideals are lived through ordinary actions. They are not an afterthought. Where we walk, where we put our heels, has got consequences. And where we put our heels is driven by whether we heard the voice, yes or no. Have we heard the voice? Yeah, it's got consequences. And we follow on those heels. So, on the heel of hearing, because of hearing, as a result of hearing, as a consequence of hearing, what's going to happen? And I'm going to read a few verses starting with where our Torah reading starts in Deuteronomy 7. But I've highlighted it, sort of encircled it, because it's a reminder to myself to say something here. Normally, in our talks, also Chris and Johan, we deal with it thematically. There will be one theme, and then we'll take that theme and we will expand on it throughout entire scripture. We will go from Genesis to Revelations and back, because we were focusing on a theme. Rarely will we go through it chapter by chapter by chapter. This one, I'm going to try and do it chapter 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And deviate less to the rest of Scripture. We'll have one or two detours to the others, but we'll go through it chapter by chapter. Not verse by verse, fortunately. And it shall be because, this is the fourth time the word ekev stands in Scripture. You hear, Yishma, these right rulings, and shall guard to do them, that Yehovah your Elohim shall guard with you the covenant and the kindness which he swore to our fathers, and shall love and bless and increase you, and shall bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your land, your grain and your new wine and your oil and the increase of your cattle and the offspring of your flock and the land of which he swore to your fathers to give them. On the heel of hearing, we're talking about kingdom living. Yes, Moses, the great prophet, is speaking to people and is motivating them. It's like a team talk. He's motivating them. On the heel of hearing, these things will follow. Because as a consequence of, as gevolg van the fact that you shema, these things will follow. But he's also prophesying about the time future. There will be a time future because we've heard that these things will happen. And shall love you and bless you and increase you, and shall bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your land and the grain and your new wine and your oil. Wow. If we think in terms of the tribulation and also many situations we're going through, you might argue, oh, we're a bit far away from this. I don't see this. Then the question is, are we going to get disappointed? Are we going to lose steam? Are we going to stop? What are we going to do? Are we going to grumble because we don't see these things? Or are we going to take this and we're going to be motivated even more because we realize there is no other El like He? Blessed are you above all peoples, and you shall consume all the peoples whom Yehovah your Elohim is delivering over to you, and your eye shall not pardon them, and do not serve their mighty ones, for this is a snare to you. It's a plea of love. Again, going through it, I was getting the impression that Moses is really serious about idols here. I mean, it's like almost every second verse is addressing the topic of idols. It's as if hy het iets geweet wat ons nie weet nie. Something like that. Because he was so driving it home. But he was linking it to love. And love Yehovah. When you say in your heart, these nations are greater than I am unable to drive them out. Do not be afraid of them. Remember well what Yehovah your Elohim did to Pharaoh and to all Egypt. Is it absolute on the heel of hearing, when you've heard the consequence thereof, He will be your Elohim, He will guard you, He will protect you, He will bless you, and He will guide you forward. The question is, do we believe it? Or do we doubt that? Do not be afraid of them, for Yehovah your Elohim is great and awesome. El is in your midst. He is among you. Believe that. Make it part of your whole being. Is that not a letter of love? The following chapters are elaborating on His love for us in various different facets and forms. And Yehovah your Elohim shall drive out those nations before you, little by little. You are not allowed to destroy them at once, lest the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. But He will drive them out. And we're going to touch on this idea of driving out a little bit later as well. Those nations before you and why He's driving them out. But Yehovah your Elohim shall deliver them over to you and destroy them with a great destruction until they are consumed. And He shall give their sovereigns into your hand, and you shall destroy their name from under the heavens. Why will He do that? Because there's only one El. He's Echad. He's Yehovah. There's nobody else like Him, no other God, and there can be no room for any other God or any other nation celebrating, honoring, worshipping, bowing before any other God, as it was back then, as it is today. Then we think in terms of fast forward to a tribulation and a time forward with our Messiah coming. He cannot come to a world filled with idols. What's going to happen? What's the tribulation going to lead to? The driving out of idols. He's going to do exactly this at a global scale. It's going to take him 3.5 years to do that. And if you and I are going to sit there unprepared, not been taught, angst will overwhelm us. But as we have read earlier, as you've been taught, as you're closer to Him, as you're experiencing Him more, as you love Him more, as you trust Him more, you will be closer and closer and closer to Him. What's going to happen? You will see it, but it will not come near your tent. The carved images of their mighty ones you are to burn with fire. Sure, he is really serious about idols. And if you think in terms of the tribulation, fire, destruction, taking care of all the idols. Do not covet the silver or the gold that is on them, nor take it for yourself, lest you be snared by it, for it is an abomination to Yahweh. I love you so much. Please do not covet after these things, because it will derail your focus. It will take your focus away from me, and I love you too much. So get rid of that stuff and focus on me, because I am Yahweh. And do not bring an abomination into your house, lest you be cursed like it, utterly loathe it, and utterly hate it, for it is cursed. Rather strong language about idols. So we can read it in a sense of, this is a heavy stick, or we can read it as a word of love. It's a word of love. Because I love you, because I want to draw you close to me, because I am a holy El, I cannot be associated with this. So please set that aside, then I can be close to you. There's a key for us here. I've been driven out because of these abominations. The driven out part is as a result of the abominations. And Yahweh and His set apart people cannot be mixed with the abominations. For Yahweh and for His people to live in the land, no abominations. So there's a consequence, there's a because, there's a result, there is as gevolg van. We're going to touch upon this a little bit more when we do chapter 9, because there's a very interesting key here for us to unlock. Representing Yahweh, the set apart El, as it is in heaven, on earth as it is in heaven. And given that He is set apart, no mixing. Right, chapter 8. But you shall remember Yahweh your Elohim, for it is He who gives you power to get wealth, in order to establish His covenant, which He swore to your fathers, as it is today. For it is He who gives you the power, because of Yahweh. And it shall be, if you by any means forget Yahweh your Elohim, and follow other mighty ones, and serve them and bow yourself to them, I have warned you this day that you shall certainly perish. When you warn somebody, is that love or is that hate? There's a little girl in the house. Don't touch that, that plate is hot. Is that love or is that punishment? That's a word of love. Don't touch that plate, it is hot. It's a word of love. So, our son is renting a house, a little cottage at the back of somebody else's house, and he's got a motorbike. But there's a 3-year-old boy in that house. So what does 3-year-old boys wants to do with motorbikes? Touch it. But the motorbike is hot from time to time. So the rule is, don't touch it, because it's hot. Little boy does not like it. Little boy wants to touch motorbike. Little boy is me. I mean, I would also like to do that if I'm free. I would like to touch motorbike. Don't touch motorbike. It's hot. What's hot? Let's feel. And then you will find out. But so I have warned you this day that you shall certainly perish. It is hot. It will burn your hand. It's a word of love. Like the nations which Yahweh is destroying before you, so that you shall perish. Destroy and perish is the same word. Avat. means to be driven out. It means to wander away, to be expelled. It's this opposite word from being drawn close. It's the reverse. It's the same word that's been used with Egypt in Exodus 10. Egypt being destroyed. That's what will happen to you. If there's idols, the same consequences. I'm warning you, don't do that. The fifth word, the fifth time that the because is standing. Because you did not Shama Kol Yorei Vavai. The fifth time that it has been used, Ekev. Because you did not obey. This will happen. So there's this big contrast between chapter 7 and chapter 8. Chapter 7 says, because you hear the voice, all these things will happen. I will draw you. I will bless you. I will be kind to you. You will prosper. You will be a shining light. You will be a witness and a testimony of my greatness and my goodness. But He's true to His word. He's true to His word. If you don't do it and you follow in the ways of the nations, the same thing will happen with you than what has happened with the nations. Esichat with His word. The same consequences will happen. But what will follow on the heel of love? Because of love. Because of love, He will look after you and He will draw you. Hear, O Israel, you are passing over the Jordan today to go and possess nations greater and stronger than yourself because of love. Because of love, we can look forward to Him and His presence in our lives. Because of love, we can look forward to Him restoring His kingdom here on earth. Because of love, we look forward to Him returning, establishing His millennial reign. We look at it and we say, yeah, it's a bit difficult. Look, I mean, there are big kings in the world at the moment with big bombs. And we're small, but because of love, because of who He is. Go into dispossessed nations greater and stronger than yourself. Cities great and walled up to the heaven. A people great and tall, the descendants of the Anakim, who you know and of whom you heard it said. Who does stand before the descendants of Anak? Who does stand before the kingdoms and the rulers of this world today? Who does stand before the money powers of this world today? Who does stand before the evildoers of this world today? And you shall know today that Yoreh-Wafah, your Elohim, is He who is passing over before you as a consuming fire. He does destroy them and subdue them before you because of love, because of the covenant, because Shema Kol, because you've heard the voice, because it's a covenantal word. Do not think in your heart that after Yoreh-Wafah your Elohim has driven them out before you, saying, because of my righteousness. It's a different because that. It's not the same word. It's not a cave. Because of my righteousness, Yoreh-Wafah has brought me into possess this land. Because it is of the wrong of these nations that Yoreh-Wafah is driving them out from before you. Not because we are so oulik. It's because of the wrong of those nations and He being righteous in everything that He does. It is not because of your righteousness, but because of the wrong of these nations that Yoreh-Wafah your Elohim drives them out from before you, in order to establish the word which Yoreh-Wafah swore to the fathers. Because of that covenant, He will do that. And now it becomes an issue of trust and faith. Do we trust Him that He will do what He is saying? Do we trust Him? Do we have faith in Him? But it's those actions, those wrongdoings, that's cursing the land. Chapter 7 says, and do not bring an abomination into your house, lest you be accursed, utterly loathed and utterly hated, for it is accursed. Those wrong things, those things that leads to a curse, I will drive them out. So, on the heel of, or on the consequences of all the evil, of all the wrong. He will drive them out. Establish His name. Now, about 15 years ago, I did a bit of a study in terms of what are the things that leads to the land being cursed. And I discovered 4 things, 4 themes. And I'm going to share that quickly. And but as I was preparing this for this one, I found a 5th one. So I'm going to share 5. It might not be the full extent of everything that leads to a curse, but 5 things that leads to a curse, or actions that will lead to being vomited off or out of the land. The first is idolatry, false worship, worship of false gods, will lead to the land being cursed, and nations that are embedded in them, that does them, to be driven out. And the reason is pretty simple. He does not share His glory with any other god. Because He doesn't share His glory with any other god, and by falling into idolatry, false worship, you're cursing the land. The people conducting that must be driven out from the land before us. As I was thinking through this, I realized that I'm not aware of one nation on earth where this is not true. This is at a global level. Which makes that, what does that make of the earth at the moment? It's a scary thought. It needs to be cleansed by our Father, by Messiah, from the idols and the idol worship. And He will need people to be with Him in that army doing that. I want to be in that number. They're sitting here, millions of us around the world, to say no to idolatry. We will serve no foreign gods. We will serve Yehovah and Yehovah only. And that gets exciting. That gets exciting. Sexual immorality, adultery, incest, bestiality. Whew. This is a big one. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And it has all to do with blood. And life is in the blood. Cursing the land for sexual immorality, adultery. You can think about trafficking as well in the same context. It's everywhere. Cursing the land. Murder. Ooh. Which country is not struggling with that? Bloodshed, murder. Broken covenants, unfaithfulness. Ja is nie ja nie, en nee is nie nee nie. Ja means ja nee. En nee beteken ja nee also. Everything means, everything is a shade of grey. Everything is about my perspective, your perspective, and the truth is out there. There's no absolute truth. Everything has become fluid. It curses the land. So those were the 4 things that I discovered sort of in the little study about 12, 15 years ago. And the one that I realized this week, injustice, oppression, and wickedness also curses the land. Those are the things we need to, which obviously are then the wrongdoings, the abominations, the evil things that will lead to people being driven out. But our Father's word is so true, and Him being a God with His word, and He has given us this warning of love. If you fall into these same things, you will also have to be driven out. But now we know what we need to get rid of that will not curse the land. And I'm thinking it's very easy to say, okay, it's at a global level, but how does this apply to my life? Each one of us has been given a dominion over something. Some have been given dominion over a match. Others have been given dominion over a flower pot. But you've got dominion over something. And that which we've got dominion over, let's make sure there's no idolatry, sexual immorality, bloodshed, broken covenants, or injustice over that with which He has given us dominion over. Because if we can reflect on our own lives and say, okay, in His great wisdom and His kindness, He has given me dominion over X. I will not allow idolatry, false worship in that which I've got dominion over. I've got no dominion what is happening in Pretoria or in Washington or in Jerusalem or any other city. I've got dominion over my life. Let there be no idolatry. Let there be no sexual immorality. Let there be no bloodshed and murder. Let there be no broken covenants. Let there be no injustice, oppression, or wickedness. And imagine an army of believers saying that and say, because we've heard the word of our Father, Shema Kol, because thereof, we're not going to do this. You've got this sea of lights all over the world, joining forces with pockets where there's no idolatry, no sexual immorality, no bloodshed, no broken covenants, no injustice. There are pockets where the land is not cursed. Oh wow, that gets exciting. That gets exciting. What's going to happen? There are going to be pockets like magnets pulling people, because that's where the pockets of life will be. And you say, hey, I don't feel like this big pocket of light at the moment. My Eskom is on load shedding. And the clouds have been rolling in for the past week, so even the solar is not working. And so, even in that situation, let's worship Yehovah. Let's eradicate those things. Because we have heard, Ekef, Shema, Kol, the word of Yehovah. Acts 15, after this I shall return and rebuild. Going to focus on the word rebuild a bit. The house of David, which has fallen down. And I shall rebuild its ruins, and I shall set it up, so that the remnant of mankind, sitting here, it's a letter to us, shall seek Yehovah, even all the Gentiles, on whom my name has been called, says Yehovah, who is doing this, who has made this known from of old. This is a fascinating chapter, Acts chapter 15. It's the council in Jerusalem. They've received notice that there are Gentiles coming to faith, and they've been confronted with a very big question. How do we handle these Gentile converts? What must we do with them? Because it's a foreign notion, it's a foreign concept to them. And they went in, they pray, and they've had this council. Because there was a faction that says, for them, if they want really to come into the house of Israel, they must convert, they must become Jews. Others have said, no, this is too difficult. And this is not necessary. And there was a big debate. And this was then the end, sort of the minutes of that meeting was then documented for us in Acts 15, the letter that's been sent out. But listen how they start this letter. The booth of David that has fallen down will be rebuilt. This house of David. And it's going to require Gentiles to be co-builders of this house of David. Wow, here we are. Still evidence because of the covenant. Therefore I judge that we should not trouble those from among the Gentiles who are turning to Elohim, but we write to them to abstain from defilements of idols, and from whoring, and from what is strangled, and from blood, and from ancient generations Moshe has in every city, those proclaiming him being read in the congregation every Shabbat. And then there's a break, and then the last part. We have therefore sent Judah and Sila, and who are also confirming this by word of mouth. For it seemed good to the set-apart spirit and to us to lay upon you no greater burden than these necessities, that you abstain from what is offered to idols, blood, and what is strangled, and whoring. And there's a lot of theological discussions going on around Acts chapter 15. But what it is basically saying, and if you keep yourselves from these, you shall do well, be strong. Just don't do these things, be strong, and you will be well. So what is it saying? It's a letter of love to the Gentiles. Welcome, come, let's build the booth of David. We need you to rebuild the booth of David. What insight from the first congregation, the first Senate meeting, if you want, in Jerusalem. Do not curse the land. Those things that they highlight are the things that will curse the land. Whatever you do, do not curse the land with your actions. That's what we're telling you. We don't tell you to circumcise and do this and do this and do this. Whatever you do, just do not curse the land, because these things curse the land. And on the Shabbat, you will learn more from Moses. Because on the Shabbat, Moses is read. Go to Shabbat, listen to what Moses is saying, and you will grow in your knowledge. But as a starter pack, don't curse the land. So in this first letter of the first congregation, congregation in Jerusalem, is issuing this letter of love to the Gentiles. A letter that is still applicable today, because it's still been written to us. Welcome. Be co-builders of this booth. And as a starter pack, don't curse the land. And on Shabbat, you will learn from Moses. Wow, isn't that simple? Very practical. And so, that was a slight detour. Let's go back to the main reading. And it's all because of, or on the heel of, His greatness. Everything that's been said, everything that Moses is going through in this final summary of his, is because of His greatness. And now, Israel, what is Yehovah your Elohim asking of you but to fear Yehovah your Elohim and to walk in His ways and to love Him? And to serve Yehovah your Elohim with all your hearts and with all your being, to guard the commands of Yehovah, His laws which I commanded you, and it is for your good, because He loves you. See the heavens and the earth. See the heavens and the heavens of the heavens belong to Yehovah your Elohim, also the earth with all that is in it. Yehovah delighted only in your fathers to love them, and He chose their seed after them, you above all peoples. Very hard to understand why He did this, but as we grow into our knowledge of our Father, we start to see how this unravels. And you shall circumcise the foreskin of your heart and harden your neck no more. For Yehovah your Elohim is Elohim of mighty ones. He is the God of gods. There is no one greater than Him. He is the Elohim of mighty ones. There's a psalm that also refers to that, and there the mighty ones refers to actually all the angels. He is the God of all the angels and everything else. And the Master of masters, the great El, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality nor takes a bribe. I like that part. Isn't that a great one? That's highly applicable at the moment. If your God takes bribes, get another God. Yehovah does not take bribes. He's got one standard. One standard for all people. And I think that's part perhaps why the first congregation in Jerusalem said, do those things, do not curse the land, because they know that if you do the things that will lead to the cursing of the land, you will have to be driven out, because He's one with His word. He shows no partiality and He takes no bribe. But there's this incredible reciprocal action. You love Him, He loves us. There's this reciprocity. It's a love relationship. It's the greatest love story of all times that Moses is busy telling us and busy guiding us through. He loved our fathers, loves Him. And what is the natural outcome of a relationship of love? understanding, relationship, growing together, harmony. We're getting to chapter 11, which is the final chapter. But the opening bookend we have read earlier. And it shall be because you hear these right rulings and shall guard and do them, that Yehovah your Elohim shall guard with you the covenant and the kindness which he swore to your fathers, and shall love you and bless you and increase you. That's the opening few verses. The closing verses. For if you diligently guard all these commands which I commanded you to do, to love Yehovah your Elohim, to walk in his ways and to cling to him, then Yehovah shall drive out all these nations before you, and you shall dispossess greater and stronger nations than you because of him. Every place on which the sole of your foot treads is yours, from the wilderness and the Lebanon, from the river to the river Euphrates, even to the western sea is your border. No man shall stand against you. Yehovah your Elohim shall put the dread of you and the fear of you upon the land where you tread, as he has spoken to you. What greater love. And so he's pulling us in. And it is here that I thought, what would be the main story of this Torah reading? This story, this theme of love and him that would like to rebuild the house of David. And there's a healed generation, a generation at the end of time, a healed generation. I've not coined the term, somebody else did, I'm just borrowing it here. That says there's going to be a generation at the end of time, a healed generation, a because generation, that because of the voice of our Father is going to be drawn back, drawn in to rebuild this house of David. And speaking of that, is a prophecy in the book of Jeremiah. At that time, declares Yehovah, I shall be the Elohim of all the clans of Israel, and they shall be my people. Wow. Think about it. Jeremiah lived 3,000 years ago, and he wrote this for us. Isn't that special? Thus says Yehovah, a people escaped from the sword found favor in the wilderness, Israel, when it went to find rest. Yehovah appeared to me from afar, saying, I have loved you with an everlasting love, therefore I shall draw you with kindness. And that draw, that word for draw, mashak, is to seize, to drag, to acquire by drawing something out. It's to pull something by the scruff of the neck and pull it. A cousin word of mashak is the word moshe, to be drawn out of the water. So it's a cousin word. So to be drawn together to our Father. And that with kindness. I'm going to build you again, and you shall be rebuilt, O maiden of Israel. Think in terms of what the name Yaakov means. The coarse man, the heel. Because at the end of time, he's going to build Israel. Again you shall take your tambourines, not your trampolines. You might jump. We might jump for joy here, but it won't be a trampoline here. Just making sure everybody is more moderately awake. Tambourines, and go forth in the dances of those who rejoice. There's a mirror text to this, and it is a red letter text. It's the words of our Messiah himself. And it is in the book of, I thought of reeling in. Many people are fishermen here. You know what it is to drag something in. And so we're being reeled in at the moment. There's a mirror text in John. Therefore the Jews were grumbling against him because he said, I am the bread with which came down from the heavens. And they were confused. They asked him questions about that. And Yeshua answered and said to them, do not grumble with one another. No one is able to come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him. It's the same word. What is happening, friends, is that Yahweh, the creator of the universe, are drawing people to him at the moment. Are drawing people to him to fulfill also that prophecy of Acts 15, to rebuild the house of David, that booth of David. And I, Messiah Yeshua, shall raise that person up in the last day. It's a phenomenal text. I'm going to read it again. No one is able to come to me, nobody is able to come to Messiah Yeshua, unless the Father who sent me drag this person by the scruff of his neck, like Moses out of water, draw him, and I shall raise him up in the last day. Messiah Yeshua shall raise him up because of Calvary, because of Golgotha. It has been written in the prophets, and they shall all be taught by Yahweh. We're back in Moses. As we have been taught, as we start to learn, as we are gaining knowledge and insight, as he is walking the path with us, we grow in our relationship of love with him. Everyone then who has heard from the Father and learned comes to me. Who has heard the voice and has learned comes to me. That is Messiah. Not that anyone has seen the Father except he who is from the Elohim, which is Messiah. He has seen the Father. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me possesses everlasting life. I am the bread of life. Because of Messiah, we've been drawn. But his Father who's drawing us and drawing us and drawing us, Messiah, by his blood, makes it possible. So, last on the application, the healed generation is the generation that has been drawn to him, and it's a generation that hears his voice. And it will be there at the end of time. The healed generation. So, I've built this slide. Took me a while because it's important. Because it's such a covenantal word. Because we've heard Shama call, heard the voice of the Father. Because changed the course of history, and because it changed the course of our lives. Everybody sitting here, everybody is worshipping the Yahweh, has had a because moment in their lives. Because we've met him, because of the word being preached, because we've received the word, because we have heard the word of the Father, we've turned from our wicked ways. Because he dragged us. For that we can only thank him. Because he will raise us up, as he has promised. Because he is rebuilding his tent with many other peoples over many thousands of years, fulfilling what is standing in Acts 15. Because he has spoken it, and therefore it will be done. And because we have heard his voice. And so, we do not fear. We are humble before him. We are not arrogant before him because we have heard. We are humble before him. But we do not angst. Because of his word. And so, now we understand what Moses was also writing as. It's not because you're so old, so big or so strong, but because of his word. So, going to conclude with a prayer, which is Psalm 105. And praying through this psalm helps us to really realize also who he is and following in his footsteps. So, as we are the healed generation which are drawn to him, let's pray. Give thanks to Yahweh, call upon his name and make known his deeds among the peoples. Our Master of the universe, thank you that you've chosen us to be your people and the healed generation, to bring glory to your name and to honor you, to make known your deeds in all generations. Sing to him, sing praises to him, speak of all his wonders, make your boast in his set-apart's name. Let the hearts rejoice of those seeking Jehovah. Thank you that as we grow to know you, that we can grow in rejoicing about you and your works. We therefore seek you, O Jehovah, and your strength. We seek your face always. We remember your wonders, your miracles, and your right rulings from your mouth. We, the seed of Abraham, your servant, we are children of Jacob. You, O Yodavah, our Elohim, your right rulings are in all the earth. You remember your covenant, the word of you commanded for 1,000 generations, the covenant you made with Abraham, your oath to Yitzhak, and established it to Jacob for a law to Israel, an everlasting covenant, saying, to you I give the land of Canaan, the portion of your inheritance. And what you've said, you will do. When the Hebrews were few in number, you allowed no one to oppress them, and you reproved sovereigns for their sake, saying, do not touch my anointed ones, and do my prophets no evil. And thank you that your word is still true today, that you will protect us, that you will guard us, that you will guide us, and that your word is still eternal. You have sent a man, Joseph, to sold as a slave. You elevated him master of his house and ruler over all his possessions, to bind his chiefs at his pleasure and to teach his elders wisdom. You increased Israel greatly and made them stronger than their enemies, and you still do that today. You show no partiality. You brought them out with silver and gold, and among his tribes no one faltered. Egypt was glad when Israel left, for the fear of Israel had fallen upon them. You spread a cloud of a covering and fire to give light in the night. They asked, and you brought quail and provided them with bread of heaven. You opened a rock and water gushed out. It ran in dry places, a river. And you cannot change. And we pray that you will be with us in our respective situations where we are. That you will provide us, guide us, as we are under your light, under your cloud, under your protection. For you remembered your set-apart word to Abraham, your servant. You brought out your people with joy, your chosen ones with singing, as we are today. And you gave to them the lands of the Gentiles, and they inherited the labor of people. And as you did in order that they might guard the laws and watch over your Torah. You've done all of those things to honor your name and so that they can guard your words because they stand in awe of who you are. And today they are us. We are those people that stand in awe before you and would like to love you and guard your word. Pray that you will guide us with everything that you have given in our hands, what is under our dominion, and that we will honor you with our words and with our deeds, and with, most importantly, our love. Amen.